Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Thank you so much for tuning into this video in which we will look at the cosine rule. We've already looked at the sine rule. Now we're using the cosine rule. Just like the sine rule, we use the cosine rule to find unknown sides or angles in non-right angled triangles. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, why do we need the cosine rule if we have the sine rule? The reason is that you can use the cosine rule when you can't use the sine rule, and conversely, you use the sine rule when you can't use the cosine rule. So in most questions, you will only be able to use one of these two rules. So this is the cosine rule for a side and for an angle. We're also going to look in this video at how to find the area of a triangle, because it turns out you can use this formula and this formula under the same conditions. But first, just a reminder, in non-right angled triangles, we don't call the sides opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. We label them A, B, and C, lowercase letters for sides, and uppercase letter for angles. Angle A is always opposite side A, angle B is opposite side B, and so on. All right, let's look at an example of using the cosine rule. So let's look at this triangle here. We're going to find the value of x. Now, we couldn't use the sine rule here to find x because we don't have another angle. We don't have enough information to use the sine rule, but luckily we can use the cosine rule. You can use the cosine rule to find a side whenever you have two sides and the angle between. Two sides and angle between. So how do we do it? Well, we have x, which is like our c here. So x is like our c, which means this is angle c, 150 degrees. It is equal to the square root of a squared plus b squared. Doesn't matter which side you call a and which you call b. Minus 2 times a times b times cos of the angle in between. You can put that straight in your calculator. So we get an answer of about 15.8. Now that answer makes sense. This is clearly the largest angle in the triangle, so this would need to be the longest side. Just make sure you do square root here. For some reason, a lot of people forget that step. So that's x. We can easily now find the perimeter of the triangle. It'll just be 12 plus 8 plus 15.8, 35.8. But it turns out if you know two sides and the angle between, you can also find the area very simply using this formula. So the area of this triangle is just a half a times b times sine of c, sine of the angle in between. So if you do put that in your calculator, you should get exactly 24. It'll be 24 units squared. All right, let's now look at using the cosine rule to find an unknown angle. So here again is the cosine rule for finding an angle. So to find an angle using the cosine rule, you need to know the lengths of all three sides. So we could use the cosine rule in this triangle to find any of its angles. We could not use the sine rule. We don't have enough information. So this is how we use the cosine rule to find angles. We have theta, which is like our c, equals cos inverse. Now, the side that you subtract is the side opposite the angle you're trying to find. So it would be 7.8 squared plus 8 squared, a squared plus b squared, minus c squared. C is the side opposite the angle that we are trying to find. And that c is absent from the bottom. We just use the other two sides on the bottom. You can put it in your calculator just like this. And the answer we get is about 62.5 degrees. Now that makes sense because the sides are very close in length. That means these angles are going to be very close to 60 degrees each. All right, thank you so much for tuning into this video. This has been the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Have a great day.